Now
Now,
we are live, and Liverpool have just drawn 2-2 to Fulham. First Premier League game of the season. Today, I'm joined by James and Giroud. James, first of all, what are your thoughts on that game?
I think we got the selection wrong. I think on paper it seemed a sensible selection, but it really did play into how Fulham wanted to play his hands. And thankfully, 5 subs gave us the opportunity to change things around. But yeah, we really played into their hands today and not into what I think we should have done in terms of Firmino drags people close to him into play, and in a really tight and small ground, I think that just created a complete lack of space. And it wasn't till Nunes came in that pushed Salah and Diaz wider, where suddenly we became this big threat to them. So I think probably we got our starting selection wrong.
Drew, do you agree with that? Because first half we were just looking absolutely shocking. Couldn't keep hold of the ball. Like, in fairness, Fulham were absolutely unbelievable. I thought, obviously newly promoted at home, you'd expect them to be buzzing, but they blew us out of the water, didn't they? To start off with.
Yeah, the first 10, 20 minutes was just all Fulham. They started exactly how they should, and I think James hit the nail on the head. I thought our selection was wrong from the start. I thought Nunez should have started as well. I talked about it yesterday, where you kind of have to build on confidence after that Man City performance, where he showed up in that game. Like, it's the perfect time to start him against Fulham and give him that kind of nod. I'm glad that he came on and did do a job, because that would have been terrible if, Firmino and Nunez didn't get anything onto the pitch. But thankfully he did get on the pitch and he changed the game. Like James said, there was much more space. I think it was our first shots on target once he came on. And that's just shocking. I think James summed it up perfectly with Firmino. He just, he attracted the Fulham defense, collapsed around him, and it was really poor until we started making those substitutions. And it's only 6 o'clock in the morning for me, so not the start that I wanted to my day.
That is absolutely brutal, to be fair, getting up for that. At least the first half. Anthony, you've joined us now. We're just talking about kind of the openings of the game, really, and even like the whole game. I thought Fulham were just the better team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. It is a shock, man. I don't think anyone really expected to get dominated by Fulham. Obviously, they just come up, so they're going to have that extra bit of motivation. But we should have taken care of them in that first half, and I think we should have won the game 2 or 3-0. Not on how the performance was, but just before the match. That's what everyone sort of expected, and it's just completely the opposite. We were getting battered everywhere, all over the pitch. I think the midfield was really bad, in particular, and Firmino just couldn't do anything with the ball, and Salah and Diaz weren't really getting many touches. But yeah, I thought Mitrovic was incredible today, and we got battered. But I think we were kind of lucky to get away with a point. But it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, it's still 37 matches to go.
Yeah, that is true, to be fair. We'll start off with the goalkeeper, though. Alisson returned. Obviously, Adrian started the Community Shield. I was confident with Alisson coming back, of course. I think everyone was. But it kind of showed today that he hasn't had the full match fitness that you would probably have wanted him to have. Not much training beforehand. Do you think that made a big difference today, James? You can see it with his kicking as well. Just didn't look 100%, did he?
Yeah, his distribution was a bit off, I found. And I often think, against smaller pitches as well, you've got to be so pinpoint accurate. I think off his left foot, he skewed a few of those. I think his right foot distribution was all right, but he's obviously not in the sync of things completely yet. But that unbelievable shot from the Fulham midfielder, I can't remember his name, where it hit the post and came bouncing out. If it had been a millimetre over, Alisson's hand was to it. That's the difference, isn't it? Adrian leaves that massive gap open and doesn't shut the door, so you can be a little bit more accurate. Alisson, you've got to absolutely ping it in the corner, and it's that intimidation factor which probably helped save us. So I am pleased he was in, but I think his distribution was a bit off, which I think you put in chat. His kicking's a bit bad today. I think it's just lack of training, but at least he's there and it's not Adrian, so everything's better in the world.
That's true, yeah. Alisson's definitely not going to get the sort of abuse Adrian will. But a man you never really expect to make a mistake, Virgil van Dijk, Drew, what happened to him today? He just didn't look kind of at it. Another player, just not really 100%. Look, he's had a good preseason. But yeah, Mitrovic had him. Kind of someone beforehand, we were really, really confident that Mitrovic was going to be in the back pocket of Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk, but didn't really go that way, did it?
Yeah, I thought Mitrovic played really well into it and kind of used, like, he threw himself down. He got the ticky-tack kind of fouls. I thought drawing in the ref and forcing him to make that decision on the penalty was, that was smart play from a striker, but I was really disappointed with the ref falling for that. I thought that's one you kind of let go and then go to VAR to see if you got it wrong, but to make that decision and like that seems like 100% certainty. And Van Dijk dangled out of the leg, and I'm not complaining at the end of the day because he left it out there, but he dove to get that penalty. And that's the kind of decisions that we've heard that in the past they were trying to overturn. They're trying to prevent players or disencourage them from throwing themselves to the ground. So I was quite disappointed with the refs' game management for the most part. But as for Van Dijk,
a lot for the Fulham stuff, didn't they? Like the last 10 minutes, suddenly this dry pitch turned into a skating rink, and they were all over the place. And he gave them everything. It was well done.
But credit to Fulham. I think they put us under pressure, and for the most part, I felt we handled it well. But they conceded 2 goals. I think if Trent and Allison were a bit weak on that first goal, but I also think Henderson being down and leaving Trent basically, fending on that right side by himself or having us makeshift get back to do something didn't help. But I think aside from that, the penalty is, that's the post shot off the post. That's pretty much sums up Fulham, but they did well. They put us under pressure.
Ante, what did you think when it came to the penalty? Because personally, I don't think there was a whole lot of contact there. I thought he went down very easily. It's kind of one that if it goes against you, you're fuming. But if it goes for you, then you take it, don't you?
Yeah, you know what? I think it reminds me of Mane. He always used to go down after like such a little contact and would get the penalties for him. So I don't think we can sort of complain if they're given against us. They're given to us for so many years. But I think if the referee didn't initially give it and they went to VAR to check it, I don't think it would have been given. But I don't think we can have too many complaints. There was contact there and sort of blocked him off. But I agree with what Drew was saying, that the referee just kept falling for anything. Especially, was it towards the end when Trent pushed Mitrovic, or like he left a hand on him and fell over? It's like come on, man. I thought half the referees left last season. Like, just get rid of all these bad ones and start employing like the ones from Europe, man. The English ones are bad enough, man. But I don't think we can really complain about the ref or match. Van Dijk was stupid for even challenging Mitrovic in that situation. You had Trent there to carry the ball or get the ball off Mitrovic, and we shouldn't have defended so badly for it.
Mitrovic kept going down, like those goats that suddenly just freeze and then fall like that. That's how Mitrovic went down. There was no guile or cleverness to it. It was just rigid, go. Every time, and the ref went for it every time. Yes, there was a clash of knees, and we feel aggrieved by it, but it's similar. The Núñez penalty against Man City, that was a header that hit a hand that was outstretched, that was missing the goal. So if his hand wasn't there, goal kick, and we got a pen for it. So it's swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think as well with the referee, it was really, really annoying to see that sort of time wasted, as you've mentioned before, and then 5 minutes added on, and about 2 of those minutes were just taken up by Fulham making substitutes, and he blew on like 95 and a half. So it's frustrating, but at the same time, you can't blame anyone but ourselves. We weren't good enough in the game. We had the time to go out and create the chances. And James, are you kind of concerned about maybe the lack of chances created? Like first half, I know Luis Diaz hit the post. A few others, well, not many others really were created apart from the goals.
I think this is where the selection error I think we made was, because we condensed all in the middle of the park. Firmino sucked in Diaz and Salah, and it just didn't work. There was no interplay between them all. And I think when Nunes came on, suddenly Salah and Diaz got pushed wide, and I think Elliott was the big difference in this. Elliott suddenly started to operate in the space that Firmino's meant to operate in, but he was causing issues flicking the ball around, and suddenly we're running at people with force. Trent's cross balls at people running at pace. So I think we got the selection wrong, and I almost starting to think that maybe we need to, especially with Thiago getting injured, start to look at a double pivot and a Fabinho, Henderson defensive line, giving Harvey Elliott the opportunity to operate in the space with three in front of him, switching that up with Carvalho as well, because Henderson, I'm not going to say like what everyone else was, he's an embarrassment and stuff like that, which we had on our chat, which I think is utterly atrocious for someone that's won us everything. But I think he needs to be further back. I think he needs time. And I don't think he can function in the absolute chaotic, tight spaces that he needs to at a ground like Fulham.
Yes, it's a really strange one, isn't it, with that midfield? Because going into the season, I thought that kind of midfield, that those three, Fabinho, Thiago, Henderson, you can't really fault either of them, really, in my opinion. Drew, what's your kind of whole thoughts on it? Because I think the midfield was kind of where the game was sort of not won. Obviously, I know Fulham didn't win, but where we dropped points today, just because we didn't have that sort of driving factor. We didn't have anything going for us in that midfield. No one kind of running on the ball, picking up, taking that bit of responsibility.
Yeah, I think James, again, hit the nail on the head for me with Elliott being able to have those quick touches and, driving force and attack. I think that's kind of what was lacking in our midfield. And I think it was telling that after, 2 games or after a single game last season, Elliott was in the starting lineup for the next 3. So I think Elliott in the midfield longer term is definitely something that we, Klopp had in his mind last season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that moving forward. I agree with James to an extent where Henderson doesn't deserve all the criticism that he gets. I think he does a job, but it's a very specific job. And if you're looking for him to be like an attacking threat, like, scoring 10 goals a season like Gerrard, that's not going to happen. And I think that's, where frustration creeps in when, when our midfield just seemed very poor first half. But yeah, I think Elliott comes in and changes that moving forward.
Yeah, he was a real big bright spot, wasn't he? But with Henderson, Anthony, I'll move to you. That last shot in the final few minutes, like, imagine if that went in, the scenes, like, Twitter would have blown up, wouldn't it?
Mate, it would have been incredible. I'm sort of on that train as well. I know there's a bit of I know, James, you said it's a bit sad for our fans to sort of turn on Henderson, but I feel like just for the past couple of seasons, he's just not been at it. That 19-20 season where we did win the title, I thought he was incredible. That's like, we've actually got a world-class midfielder, but he's just not turned up. And this performance today sort of summed it up. I think for the past season, he's been putting in performances like this, but because the rest of the teams played so bad, it sort of got recognised today. And that's not me just constantly criticising Henderson. I just don't think he was great today. And I do think that right central midfield spot, we need to sign someone. I think everyone could see we need to sign a player, man. We get, where is it? Bet365, Paddy Powell made like that video about people crying about a midfielder. But we need one. They're saying, just enjoy it. We can't enjoy matches like drawing to Fulham, though, can we? Like, it gets boring, honestly, the arguments on midfielder. But just do it. It's so obvious we need a right midfielder. And even if Henderson does play well, we still have the problem of midfield just can't stay fit. Thiago pulled his hamstring, so he's out for a few weeks or months now. Henderson, even he's had his injury problems in the past. We know same with Keita. Jones is injured. So it just didn't take a genius to sign him, like, to figure out we need a midfielder. And I think that's where we lose most of our matches and drop points in. And it's the same today. There's no sort of presence in that midfield. Thiago probably didn't have his best match, but even with Henderson, constantly giving the ball away. And I just felt like the players looked lost in that first half. And even for most of the second half, they did too.
A man who gets a lot of stick, though, James Milner. He came on when we were losing. I thought he put an absolute shift today. And considering the performances of Henderson, Thiago even, obviously Thiago's got that injury, which you would almost certainly rule him out of next week's game. But it's got to be James Milner starting 11 next week, isn't it?
It depends on the opposition, to be honest, Owen. I think, and again, I'll talk about where we got selection wrong today, because they went at it. They were at full force. They were like, in the last 5 minutes, they were prepared to do tackles to end people's career just to get a point. And that's what potentially could keep Fulham up. I mean, they really were going in for it with everything they had. Just look at what Tete did to Diaz in the first minute. And that is the type of game where you need someone that's not scared. And that's where Milner comes in. Like, Milner's like, yeah, whatever, you bring it on because I'm harder than you. And that's great in those types of games. And I think it depends on your opposition. It's not to say Milner should start the next one, because the next one may be more where Fabinho would be more sensible as an option. You know, I think Henderson and Fabinho need to switch that sixth position. I think when we're meant to be controlling possession and dominance, Henderson's better there. I think when it's an even exchange of back and forth, Fabinho's needed for the defensive element. But for me, it's all about where we can get Harvey Elliott functioning now, because when him, Salah and Trent started clicking together, that left so much space for Núñez, and you give Diaz a full game at that with Robbo coming in behind him. I think we're great. I think the thing that worries me is Thiago's so important. When he started getting on the ball towards the end of the second half and these passes were coming off and he was bouncing people around, we suddenly had control of the game. And then he got injured start of the second half. So if we're going to lose Thiago, we're going to lose the ability to, shall we say, pass through teams. So we need to blast through teams. So maybe Milner does get more games just on that whole aggression standpoint that we potentially need.
Yeah, and that's really, really true, actually, because when we actually raise that intensity, like when we scored the goal, really, we raised the intensity totally. And then you started to see the likes of Darwin Núñez. There were gaps in midfield where Harvey Elliott could pick the ball up and feed the balls into him. And then it gave more space for the likes of Mo Salah, who found himself in behind, Trent as well. It just changed the game totally from being a real kind of stalemate, no space at all, just a total kind of crunch game against sort of relegation team that you don't want to play in, to a game where it favoured us and drew kind of the midfield. Harvey Elliott, he looked fantastic, didn't he? Like, he's still incredibly young and he's going to have a massive role to play this season, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm curious to see if he starts the next game. Came on and did exactly what we wanted him to do. I think James has summed it up before. But it was really exciting seeing him and Núñez come on and change the game. And I think at that point, it looked like after Núñez put in that equalizer, that it was like, okay, here's that 3-goal score line that we were looking for. It just looked like Fulham were struggling. They, were on the back foot. We were having creative turns in the final third for the first time in the game. We were putting in crosses that were actually causing a lot of problems, little quick passes and getting in behind. And I was really excited to see, and Harvey Elliott was part of that reason of why we were able to do that and able to have those moments. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him get more game time, especially with Thiago being injured.
Another former Fulham player, of course, Fabio Carvalho. Anthony, what did you think of him when he came on? Because I don't know, personally, it was kind of like you can see in the final few minutes we were trying not to play the ball to him, trying not to go down that side because he doesn't kind of shield the ball particularly well. He's still kind of not weak, but he still needs a bit of bulking up to do, doesn't he?
Yeah, you literally summed it up. There wasn't really much to sort of take from that performance from him. I think that he just wasn't really getting the ball, but whenever he did have it, I'm just trying to think of when he had the ball. I thought I don't know. I just can't remember him having the ball actually, but I remember there's one shot where
absolutely spooned one.
Yeah, his shot. It weren't too bad to be fair, but maybe a different technique he could have used. But there was one where Fulham were on a counter attack and he stopped it. So obviously he got the work rate there, which is what Klopp loves. And just touching on Elliott as well, I think you summed it up perfectly. There's lots of space in that midfield, and you need a midfielder who could sort of drive and not just try and quickly pick out a pass. And Elliott did that perfectly. I thought before the match, I was sort of thinking, what's he actually going to do today, Elliott, or what does he bring to Liverpool's midfield? And today he just sort of proved me wrong. I was doubtful of him, but I think his link up play with Salah and Trent was incredible, and even Milner. I'm not Milner's biggest fan, but I thought he was incredible today, especially when he came on and started playing towards that right hand side with Salah as well. But yeah, Elliott and Carvalho need to bulk up, and like you were saying, and I think that could be incredible for us, especially Harvey Elliott.
Yeah, what a right hand side. Trent, Harvey Elliott, and then Mo Salah. Like, Mo Salah kind of had a quiet first half, didn't he? But second half, when he had that space, he just looks deadly going forward, doesn't he, James?
Well, yeah, what a player. I think Elliott, I think I put it up earlier. Where is it? Shout out to Salah, who's the only Premier League player ever to score in the opening fixture in 5 consecutive seasons. Now he's done 6. This is a player that now is a signed contract with us. He's going to be with us for the next, X amount of years with Trent, with Harvey Elliott. I mean, that right side could dominate world football. And Salah, who had a bad end to the last season, wasn't really scoring goals. Opportunistic poacher striker, Bash. He's off the mark. Good. I had him as my captain in Fantasy Premier League, so good double points. I'll take that. But it's nice to see him and Nunes get off the mark. I wish the Diaz shot had gone in and all 3 of them could have got off the mark and we'd have had 3 points. But it's just, for me, it's important that both Salah and Nunes scored. That's what we needed.
We saw a link-up play as well with Salah and Nunes already. They assisted each other. Drew, it's really, really promising to see kind of that already. They kind of got an understanding of each other.
Yeah, I think a few of those were a little lucky. It looked like Nunez had the touch that just fell right to Salah, and then defender deflected it off Nunez. But I think it's getting there and being in those moments that gives you those opportunities. I was really excited with Nunez's energy. Caused a lot of trouble. And Salah, I think it speaks just to his quality where he didn't get any service. He got crowded out for the first half and a lot of the second half. But when he needed to turn it on or had the opportunity to turn it on, he did. And, even that finish, that's a cool finish to have when you're down by 1 with, 10 minutes left to go. So it's really nice to see them both with an assist and getting on the score sheet. It only does good for their confidence. No Nunez, well, that's only good for him, and Salah doesn't need any confidence. He'll keep going forward.
And Ante, what were your thoughts on Darwin Núñez? In contrast to Roberto Firmino, he just looked a level above, didn't he?
Yeah, mate, past few streams, I keep saying that we've got an actual striker now, and you can see the difference straight away, man. This guy was causing havoc as soon as he came onto the pitch. And not even just his goal, he's getting in the right positions, and it looked like we were actually going to score a goal. Before that, it's like we're just hoping some magic can happen. And but yeah, he was incredible. It's like since Luis Suarez, we've not actually had like a proper striker who can score goals for us. And besides Firmino, obviously 17, 18, but even then he was just still more for false 9, but with goals to his game. But Núñez looked incredible, and if we're being picky, he should have maybe scored 1 or 2 more. But it's his debut. He scored a goal, got an assist, did his job when he came on. I think he should have started the match. I know there were people saying, Firmino probably was the best option, but it's obviously easy in hindsight as well, saying no, Núñez should have started. But it just made sense. 60 million signing, start the guy. Firmino's not really started regularly for us, so you're going away to Fulham, just start him, and look at the difference he made. And same with Salah, he's going to win that Golden Boot. I'm telling you now, and he's going to win the Player of the Year as well. And James likewise captained in my fantasy, and I've got Núñez as well.
And I got Núñez as well.
It went too good with Trent, but yeah, I'm glad they're off the mark. And Diaz, he just needs to bring goals to his game. Honestly, he had this one opportunity as well where Núñez set up perfectly for him, and he just hit it at the Fulham defender. It should have went in, but I don't think we can complain too much with Núñez or Salah. They're going to be incredible for us this season.
Yeah, also worth mentioning Diogo Jota, of course, because he's out injured. I think when he returns, he's going to have a massive impact, and he's definitely going to add to those goals. So, yeah, we're definitely seeing a bit of a up there. But I think now we got to move on to kind of the midfield discussion. It's going to be big over the next few weeks. We've seen Leighton Clarkson's now gone out on loan to Aberdeen. So, James, I asked you the question: do we need a midfielder? And if so, let's be realistic. Obviously, Jude Bellingham doesn't look available at the minute. Who really is out there for Liverpool to go and get?
My problem now is if Thiago's injured. Like, that really bugs me. Like, Curtis Jones being out for a little bit, I'm all right with. The Ox being out for a little bit, I'm all right with, because they're not first team. They don't detract from Liverpool's ability as a squad. Thiago going down, who comes in to replace him? Harvey Elliott and Henderson should share that role. I think Harvey Elliott will take that role this year, but who replaces Thiago? And I think that's the problem. We can't just casually go out and find someone else that plays like Thiago. It's not possible. He's one of the best in the world at what he does, one of the best of all time at what he does. So we either need to change our system and sort of bypass midfield to a degree and have 4 up front with Elliott being that 10 almost, and change our system, which we haven't done across all of pre-season, or we need to get our checkbook out and sign somebody. Matheus Nunes is the biggest name that's been linked. That would be an option for me. I think he would. There's no guarantee a 23-year-old can come in and dominate us, like dominate our midfield like Thiago could, but it's just more effort. Who's out there that could really do us a job and could jump in straight away and could deal with the Premier League? Wolves just put, I think he means Maddison. I think he's a bit flaky, to be honest. If you're going for a short-term signing with a view to being Bellingham in the long term, I'd probably go with someone like James Ward-Prowse and just put money on the table and go back to Southampton. Because at least he will do the job of an adequate standard until we can get the long-term replacement in, which I think is our goal is Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, I think with Ward-Prowse, though, how much is Southampton going to want? Are they going to want silly money? Because I think anything over 30, 40 million pounds, are we going to be willing to pay that for a short-term solution? Go back to Thiago. He's not exactly a player now, been here for 2 years, that you can kind of rely on to stay fit. Unfortunately, he's quite injury prone. But Drew, I'll pose the same question to you. Who would you like to see Liverpool bring in?
I think it's a tough one to do because any team at this point can hold us ransom. Yeah, it's like, oh, you really need a midfielder. Pay us, 20 on top of whatever this player's worth, 30. I think it's a bad position for us, and I'd be curious more I think it's coming to the time where, like, Thiago's not looking like he can play an entire season. Maybe this is his only injury of the season. He comes back in after, 3-4 weeks with a hamstring, pull, and that's it. Like, he's in the rest of the team fit and firing, but it just seems like he gets these little niggles every so often. I think it was before like almost every cup final that we had that we didn't know if he was going to start. Like, he got some sort of tweak in, the warm-up. So I'm wondering if we just need to change our system a bit, rely more on Harvey Elliott and Carvalho. If we're throwing, picking names out of the hat, I'll throw in Barella. I think he'd be an interesting buy, but that's just more. It's not likely. I don't think we can really get someone in at this point. And with the realistic aim, if we're going to get Bellingham next season, it's a stopgap that doesn't really make sense at this point.
Yeah, throughout the pre-season, it's been mentioned possible change about going to the 4-2-3-1 formation. Anthony, is that something you'd like to see now going forwards? Obviously, you've got Naby Keita as well, who I know you're a big fan of. You could probably do that role in sort of the pivot. Do you think that would be a valuable option? Harvey Elliott on maybe a attacking midfield, Fabio Carvalho maybe there as well. Who knows?
Firmino can even play at 10.
To be fair, I don't think Klopp will sort of. He seems very stubborn on this sort of formations. I can't imagine him sort of changing the whole system just because one midfielder's missing. I reckon he'll try and get players to sort of suit that position. We saw it when, what season was it? 2 seasons back when we had the injury crisis. He was playing Hendo and Fabinho in centre back. So I think you never know. Actually, he could do 4-2-3-1, but I can't imagine it. I think we'll stick to 4-3-3 and. Klopp did say in the interview, if we have any more injuries in midfield, then I'll look to sign someone. And you think like, what are the scouting people in our club doing? You know, there's no way they've only identified Bellingham like over the past couple of seasons as the only good midfielder. We should have had a midfielder last season when Wijnaldum left, and we've had to sign someone this summer, and we're looking like we're going to have to wait another season for it. But because Thiago's injured, that's given me a bit of hope. We might sign someone, and obviously James said Nunes has been mentioned, and I know Drew, you're a bit hopeful with Barella. I think into one to around 100 mil for him. I can't see that happening, but it should have been Tchouameni, man. If Real Madrid just signed Mbappe instead of him, we should have had him. But obviously he's no longer an option. Exactly, he would have been perfect, sorted for the next 10 years. Him and Bellingham in midfield, but we can only dream that he just randomly wants to decide this next season to join us next season. But yeah, it is tough for us to pick, but that's the job of the scouting team and Liverpool sort of transfer committee to pick out players or young exciting players and do their job properly. Like I said, there's no way they've only picked up Bellingham for the past couple of seasons as the only good midfielder that we could sign. Surely there has to be at least like, I know it's bad to phrase it as stopgap signing, but they are going to have to be that. And there's just no way there's only been one option for them.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating because there is quality out there. And there's no doubt in that. But I don't think we can be too fussy at the minute. If it's a stopgap, like just get quality. Yuri Tielemans is a player who I've mentioned on here a few times now. I think he could be perfect Leicester, kind of in a bit of a crisis, 25, 30 mil. Just offer them that and see what happens. I think that can't really go wrong. He's kind of 25, perfect age, still can be a squad player going forward out this season once we kind of get some players back. So yeah, it's not a nice place to be in right now in terms of the midfield, and you'd rather be kind of here after we just beat Fulham 4-0 and got everyone fit. But yeah, unfortunately, that's not the situation we're in. And yeah, we'll end the stream there. It's been a good one. Been joined by James, Drew, and Anthony. I've been Owen. We've been ASD Transfer Room, and we'll see you in a bit.